Soundstripe.
Welcome to South End Supporters, a St. Louis City SC podcast powered by Ready to Live Wellness and coming at you from the Warrior Logo Wear studio. David Heck alongside Eric Cole and the Monday morning center back Dave Wyckoff. Gents, an exciting game taking place at City Park on Sunday night on soccer night, Sunday night soccer, whatever they call it on Apple. Not the result we wanted, but nevertheless, we are back to break things down there and then get into some news and notes on the back end. How are we this evening?
We are sad about dropped points, and we are optimistic about creating chances, and we are frustrated about not being able to convert said chances. So, yeah, we're better off than we were last week, but still a long way to being happy. In terms of fans, otherwise wonderful.
Yeah, that is interesting. It seemed like, I don't know if just the fans online have burnt themselves out with week after week just being unruly negative, but it seemed a little bit less. But I think with good reason. I think there was signs of improvement there, but there are also kind of worries because I'm confused. I'm curious to get how you guys feel coming out of that game because I'm torn because rewatching it back today, I felt like we honestly could have won that game. But I also feel like we could have lost that game like 7-2. Like,
yeah,
Columbus had quite a few chances as well that they probably could have put away. I think Lunt had a couple great saves, but then at the same time, Schulte had a couple great saves, and there's also a couple opportunities that we had that you're thinking, how was that not finished, or let alone how is that not put on frame? Like, I mean, so you're optimist because you feel like you're creating some chances, but God, you got to start putting the ball away, or at least on target.
I agree with both those points. So, to Dave's point, like there is some optimism that you walk out. Like, it did look like a better team. Granted, they scored a goal, and the guy that scored it, it's been about 11 months since he's done so. So that was good to see. But to your point, Eric, like it did seem like there was an opportunity, a very clear path for a City victory in this game. Especially was it Toyshirt or Hartle that had the breakaway at one point? Toyshirt, yeah. You know, you get that and a couple other bounces to kind of go your way. But then on the flip side of that as well, how many times did it seem like Lunt had bailed this team out? I want to talk about his performance a little bit because I thought it was exceptional. Again, he's been really good since filling in for Berkey. He's certainly not the reason why this squad is in 12th place at this point. I'm not sure, what the backup keeper situation is around the league, but I can't imagine there's a better backup than this guy that's currently playing in the MLS. So fortunate to have him because there were plenty of opportunities that Columbus had to break this thing open, like open, right? But Lunt continued to perform well. So, if there's any silver lining to the way that the performance has been over the last several weeks, I think Ben Lunt's been, if not the guy, certainly on that short list.
It is interesting to think that, like, once that the whole injury report kind of came out, you look at our injury list, you would think, like, the guy we would be missing most would have been Berkey. But, man, Lunt's, he's filled in really well, and you've seen the confidence grow each week. We've always said, like, he's got that shot-stopping ability right up there with Berkey. It's just building the confidence and then the little things like distribution and stuff where I don't feel like a game like this really called for keeper distribution or anything like that. So I don't feel like it was noticeable from him, but man, there was a couple big saves that he made. And really, I mean, you think about that first big save he makes leads to a counter, which leads to a goal. And kind of like you teed up, David, like, man, of all people that I was just so elated to see the ball go in the back of the net and who was behind it, like Klaus. You felt this, like, in stadium that night, this, like, relief just throughout the stadium of, like, everybody was just super happy that it was him who was the one who got on that goal. So, yeah, Lunt big saves, and then it was just even greater to just see that kind of weight lifted off his shoulders as far as Klaus getting on the score sheet.
Yeah, he only made 3 saves, which I was surprised they only had 5 shots on target. But the saves that he made were big. He's doing his part. He's a serviceable backup keeper that has shortcomings in ball distribution, and I think that's kind of most glaring right now where you're kind of deficient is you can't snap the ball back to Roman Berkey and expect just an absolute pinpoint laser out to your wingbacks. Not at this point with the wingbacks that you're running out there. Sometimes that you'd expect them to do much with it, but no, Lunt is very serviceable. Klaus, great to see him get on the score sheet. God, the bar again. I just had the most horrible sinking feeling after it hits the bar that, oh, here we go again. And then with the awareness to stay with that ball and just place it. A lot of players would take that and try to get it down to their foot and sky it over the bar. So kudos to him and good job by Teutschert not getting in the way or being offside. And it was great to see. But again, you had a first half that was really the tale of three halves, right? Like first 15, 20 minutes, you looked good. You looked strong in possession. You were a little open, which is kind of why Lunt had to come and make some saves, but you had some key blocks in the back. That didn't bother me as much to be open, although it really kind of just continues to underscore how poor we are through the center midfield. But then you had, the 20 minutes where you decided to sit back and, kind of coincided with the substitution and the subsequent formation change. Although I at first, Eric, I thought it was a 4-4-2 also, but even before the Yarrow injury in the sub, it did look like they were going to a back five and just kind of sitting a little too deep and falling into the same bad habits again of, okay, you win the ball and you immediately give it away. And partially I attribute that to Klaus having to fall back a little deeper to play a little bit of defense. But again, you shouldn't be getting stuck that far deep in your zone. And when you do receive the ball, you should break out. Like they did on the goal, right? The ball gets out to Celio, who does Celio things and hunts the end line and gets across. Subsequently, afterwards, started to play a little reckless, picked up a needless yellow. But that first 20 minutes is what we want to see, right? We want to see, get the ball to your skill players and let them go do their thing. But I still don't think that the counterattack is nearly ferocious enough. And not to compare them to this team, but, obviously watch the Chelsea game on Sunday, and that counterattack is like a horse race. And the City counterattack is like a wiener dog race. Like they're just or a corgi race. You guys ever seen corgi race?
I've seen both.
They're moving their feet.
Neither one are impressive.
They're moving their feet really fast, but they're not getting anywhere.
Right.
So, yeah, 2020, and then, the last five, I don't know what to say. You just fall asleep. Watts fell asleep on the left, and then Celio fell asleep and let his guy go, and then not a couple minutes later, Wallum fell asleep too. So what do we always say? First five, last five, next five are the most important 5 minutes, and you fell asleep, and you could have gone into the end of the first half with a ton of momentum, time to kind of sit down and have a team talk and maybe work on your tactics, maybe make a sub. But, it's the little things that just continue to haunt this team.
I like what he did there, Eric, if you caught it, because first five, last five, those are things that you've told me for a couple of years now, and he adds next five into the mix as well.
I do like that as well, yeah.
Yeah, how about that? City possessed the ball for 32% of this game, 32%. And I know that they're not known to be a possession team, but they don't seem to be a real counter-attacking team either at this point, although the chances they had were off of counters. The Teutschert opportunity as well, and then, of course, the Klaus goal. That was started by Celio, but at some point, something's got to change, right? It seemed like things were changing up front, and I even heard on the broadcast that Taylor Twellman had mentioned about how this is a wildly different style than we've seen in St. Louis the last couple of seasons. But it's not one of those things where, going back to what Dave said, it's starting to feel a little bit like the definition of insanity in a sense, right? It's like we're not pressing, we're not possessing, we're not pressing, and we're not really getting, capitalizing on our counter opportunities. We're just sitting back and absorbing pressure. And it hasn't resulted in wins. I don't know if the plan is, and I know that the Olaf press conference, what was that, a week ago, where he made some comments, and it didn't sound like he had any necessarily a desire to change. Maybe they'll bring in additional talent. He's still, again, doing this in large part with talent that was here previously, with the exception of a couple of pieces. regardless, like what has to give in order for this team to get back in the winning column?
Thought it did give. Like Dave brought up the first 20, I thought, because in my mind it looked like a 4-4-2, just running all center backs across the back. In my mindset, with seeing that with Celio and Wallen being out on the wing, is like, okay, cool. He's trying to alleviate them with any sort of extra defensive responsibilities, and he's just wanting those two to just get forward. So that's what I was like at the beginning of the game, or maybe the first 20, like you said, like I was like, okay, like maybe this is the change. Maybe it's finally like just getting to him to where he's like, yeah, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna allow those two a little bit of freedom, getting down the wings on each side. And then when the Yarrow substitution happened, I just thought Watts was going to be a like for like, and he was just going to have Watts do the same responsibility. But right then, that's when he went back to like a 5-back system, and then I believe he brought Wallen back out on a wing back, and it was like, well, wait a minute, like now we're back to just hoping that we have magic from Celio out on the wing, and then Klaus is going to have to check back farther because we're going to have. I tell you what, watching Columbus live that night, boy, did they move the ball extremely well. Like it was almost like you hated seeing it, but like you were almost like enjoying watching them, like because it wasn't. What they did so well is they would mesmerize you with this like triangle one touch passing with the other person to distract you, and then that fourth runner would just run, and you'd almost lose like you'd be so mesmerized with those three working the ball that they would try and find that fourth runner making that run. And boy, Rossi was that guy all night. Like he was just finding the space, and it was just so frustrating to think going into the game. Like we knew like he was the guy that you had to just shut down, and they almost used like AZ as like a distraction technique where they kept trying to get him the ball, and he would just kind of dribble into space and kind of bring two guys with him, and then they would work off of that. And so like Columbus really did move the ball very well. I think that's where I think luckily we got away with them not taking more shots, because I think had they pulled the trigger a little earlier and not looked for that extra pass, they would have had more shots on target, and that's where we got those blocks and everything like that. But I just didn't understand, and it really felt like what we've experienced throughout this year, where you go up a goal and then all of a sudden it's just, all right, here's an excuse with this, an unplanned substitution. Now we'll just go back into our block and try and, wait this out. And it's like, God, man, like at what point are we just going to go for it? At what point are we going to look to take it to teams and gap ourselves a little bit? Because we clearly have to understand with this team right now and the way they hold possession, and especially to Dave's point, how the center of the midfield is looking right now, a 1-goal lead is not enough for this team. They have to start looking to run up the score and then wait until 80th plus to maybe start thinking about, all right, now we'll see this game out.
Yeah, I mean, how many times did we see sorry to cut you off, Dave, but like to address that initial point, right? Like how many times did we see, especially early on in the first season, they'd get up a goal and they would almost seem to look for a goal like immediately when they possessed it again, right? And they would just pile on and pile on and pile on. I mean, you look at, I know it's a small sample size, but go back to the Storm game. Was that Cincinnati that took place, Eric? The one that was delayed forever in season. It was like a 5-0 win or whatever it was, right?
Yeah, 5-2, I think, yeah.
Yeah, or whatever it was. They scored a bunch. And they just kept looking for opportunities, and that just isn't there anymore. And that, I think, is the frustrating part. David, you go ahead and continue on with that thought, but that just reminded me of, like, you're right, 100%, Eric. When I think about it, it is so wildly different than what was here at one point. And as frustrating as that was for people, at least it was fun, and it did certainly lead to a big opportunity to score.
And to put a bow on that particular point, this team is not going to ever be that team that looks to hunt. Not the way that this personnel group is set up. This is what you're going to see. You're going to see defense and you're going to see counterattacking even when you get your starting squad back, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what have we said since the beginning of this season? In this system, you have to be more clinical, and you just don't have the quality right now. Or, well, you do have the quality, but they are not finishing like the quality that they should be. And, I know that everybody longs for an open game, but I think that you saw how uncomfortable Olaf is with that by the tactics change through the middle of the first half. And I also wanted to talk about Columbus a little bit because, Eric, you're absolutely right. It was fun to watch. They are not a team that puts a lot of pressure on you quickly. They are very methodical, and they sort of kind of back you into a corner and then make you make decisions with their one and two touch passing and make you commit. And they're not afraid to lose the ball because they counter press just fantastic counter press to where they almost put you in a worse position when they lose the ball, because then you're on the back foot. And we know City's had some real issues the last month or so turning the ball over. So again, I don't think this is what you can expect, I think, at best for right now, as far as like tactics, like a 60-30 or 60-40, 70-30 possession, and got to finish chances, got to finish off of set pieces, got to finish breakaways. You just have to do it, and there's no more excuses. I mean, you're already 8 games into the season. You're still sitting in 11th. I think you're 1 win out of a playoff spot, so it's still, ton of season left. It's all good. You got to see some good minutes, some excellent minutes from Mekhi Joyner. I was so excited that they put him in particularly in like a wing position. And did anyone else notice how there was a ball up in the air that he skied for, headed it, and then skied again immediately? It was like he was like a jackrabbit, he was like a spring. He jumped, came down and jumped, headed the same ball twice out of the air. It was incredible. Like, it didn't lead to a goal or a chance or anything, but that's the kind of spark that they're looking for. And I know that he's only on a 2-game contract, but man, that right there, if that doesn't get you just jazzed up to see more of him, I don't know what else will.
Yeah, the things I noticed in his short little cameo that seemed different, I don't know if you guys picked up on this. Maybe this is just me overthinking it, or maybe the personality of Mekhi is growing just with the stats that we've noticed, but he seemed a little bit physically more capable than compared to when he made his appearance last year. Obviously, he's growing.
Yep.
I'm not,
Yep.
But he just looked like he didn't look as. You remember the first time we saw Johnny Klein come out and he got, just wrecked, and it was noticeably physically he was just a little bit off. Like, I felt like that a little bit last year with Mekhi. Maybe it was a little bit of nerves and stuff. He just felt a little bit more capable this year. And then to Dave's point, there was also a play where he gets tackled. It was a foul that they allowed possession, but he was the first one back up and retained possession.
Yep.
And he tried to play in Celio, but it was just that, like, I don't know, you just haven't seen that, like, hunger from a player, it felt like, for a little bit. And it was, I don't know if it's just that youthfulness that he's just, excited to be there, and he hopes to be back there, so he knows he's got to go put in a shift. But I mean, it's sad that we got a teenager coming out there and showing that type of heart when you're like, and I'm not saying like that as a knock towards the other. I'm just saying I liked seeing that sort of like youthful fire that out of a player. And to Dave's point, yeah, like, there was an obvious change in tactics whenever it came down to the substitution and everything from there. But at the same time, you had that Teutsch break in, you had the Betcher gifted chance where they tried to play the goal kick and passed it right to him. And like, that's got to be at least on frame. You got to test the keeper there. You had the whole, Klaus offside, not offside goal thing happen. That's going to be a big, talking point that I've seen. So, I mean, there were chances there that should have been put away at the end of the day. And
Schulte played out of his mind too. Don't forget that.
Sure.
Schulte
no, sure. 100%.
Phenomenal.
SLU alum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, U.S. men's national team experience, like, we knew that he had that capability. And he, for sure, 2, maybe 3 instances where he kept, goals out. But you take that out of the equation, you got to at least have, you only have one of those on frame and then unjustly be called back. Like, when 2 of those are pretty open, uncontested shots, I mean.
That chance, though, for Betcher did come off a high press. So let's not forget about that. Like, they are showing the willingness to open up and press a little bit more
in the last 15 minutes.
But that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see Carnell wide open.
But I'm not.
Going
you don't
after.
Need that. But give me a little.
But that's
the thing.
It's not so much that they're not capable. It's your glaring weakness is the middle of the field, and once you break the top 3 or 4. Alfredo Morales is a turnstile, man. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. He is an absolute turnstile. And he's got decent distribution skills, but he has been exposed as a backup center mid. I can't, for the life of me, figure out why we didn't see more of Ostrak until later. Who the hell knows? But that is your most glaring weakness, even when you have your two starters, to be honest. And Columbus, they cut them up, man. They cut them up big time through the middle.
But what I noticed, though, at least in the 4-4-2, like when we shifted up and shifted back, it looked like they actually held their shape for an instance. Where once we went to the four, like I don't know if you guys noticed it, but there was many times, like not late in the game either. Like I'm not saying this was like a substitute or tactical thing. I think it was still in the first half where Baumgartel was like the highest presser. Like he came flying up out.
Yeah,
And Hebert,
that was
Hebert did it
strange.
a couple times as well. And it was after the
Yeah.
shift, and it just felt like we lost our shape. It was like, and he was even looking around, going like, Baumgartel did it twice. I remember he looked around like, wait, nobody's pressing with me here. What are we? It's just like But I felt like in the first 20, it just looked a little bit more in unison shifting, I guess.
Two questions here. First and foremost, the health of Josh Yarrow. I think that's an important one to address. He got hit on, I guess, what was a cross, right, near the box, and dropped immediately. And it was scary looking. I texted you, Eric, and it was right in front of you on the south end. The initial thought, like, it looked way worse than I suppose it was, perhaps. I was shocked that he returned to play. Now, granted, he wasn't out there for very long, but the fact that he got back on, it seemed odd to me. Like, it seemed like this guy should have been in concussion protocol immediately, and it was very clear from the way that he dropped and the way that he reacted that he was unconscious. Has there been any report come out about his overall health, and then whether or not he was in fact unconscious when it happened? Because that's how it looked to me, and I think everybody watching it at the time.
I haven't seen anything as far as a report or follow up or anything like that as of yet. It was interesting, like watching it in stadium. Your mind, your head kind of just follows the ball. So after the clearance, I didn't really, see the drop the way I did when I re-watched it back. What was kind of worrisome was like that you hear the immediate whistle and you're kind of like, oh, what's going on? Like maybe a foul off the ball or something. And then when you look back, watching UFC many times, it was the deep breaths that he was taking
I
when he
noticed
was
the
laying
same.
there.
I noticed the
And
same thing.
It was like, oh man, I thought then he was out. Like rewatching it back, it looked like he was 2 when he was doing those breaths. But like to me, that was like the clear sign of like, yeah, like
I noticed the same thing.
The deep breaths, and then he sits up and kind of shakes it, and then I kind of forgot about this, but they brought it up on the broadcast that he's had a history.
He's had it
of
before.
concussions,
Yeah.
concussions and stuff. I saw kind of online, like I don't really think this is necessarily, but like people saying like, man, this is kind of almost a bad look for City's medical staff, the fact that they sent him back out and then higher ups. Now I rewatching it back today, I tried to find, did he stumble running or did he look off? I don't know what it was that they did see that he was doing that they realized that it was off, but rewatching it back on TV, it does look like you see those kind of stiff arms come up as he's going to fall, and it's like, oh yeah, he was like out.
He didn't brace
quick.
himself. He didn't brace himself at all when he fell. That's why it looked, to your point, Eric, like a fighter getting one punch KO'd, right? Like that's how it felt. And then and you see this in the UFC, right? Guys get knocked out and then they come to again, and sometimes they're flash knockouts even, and they're fighting like a split second later, which is crazy. But the
Shane
brain
Burgos.
damage,
That was
yeah,
nasty.
yeah. The damage is done at that point though, and so it's I think it's hard to take someone's word for it, a competitor's word for it, and say, all right, well you feel up to it, you can get back out there. I do, and I'm not necessarily critiquing anything, but maybe I am to some effect, I suppose. It seems odd that more wasn't done in the moment to address it, especially when he's going to come off. Like he was only on for a few more minutes after that, and they took him off at that point, right? So it seems strange that he returned at all. I don't know what kind of testing was done on the sideline, but it didn't seem thorough enough. Just in my very limited knowledge of a head injury and just seeing it a few times, when watching sports, especially combat sports, it just didn't look good. It just didn't seem like he should have returned.
Athletes want to compete, but you have to protect them from themselves.
Exactly.
And what it looked like is that the independent medical staff released him back and then continued to monitor him and then decided they didn't like what they saw. I can't figure out how that is policy If
Same.
if you felt like he was still iffy enough to monitor, then there's no way that you let him back on the
Agreed.
field. But ultimately, they got to the right spot. I think that's what's lost here is they did eventually make him sub off. They did eventually protect him from himself. So, this is what is concussion protocol? I mean, it's so relatively new to sports. Like obviously the most high profile is the NFL, and that's probably been 15 years where they've maybe 15 years where they've had the independent neurologist on the sideline and they will take guys out of plays. So, they're doing their best to try to protect the players from themselves.
Do you think soccer is also one of the tougher ones as far as like time frame on the test? Because soccer is one of the few sports, or maybe the only sport, where you're then down a man while that whole concussion protocol is done. Football, you get a substitution in, and play continues where you're not down a man. Same with really any other sport. If there's no, the game can carry on without that player. I mean, I'm not saying this at all. I'm just saying, do you think maybe there is a bit of like, all right, we got to run in that straight line. Yeah, he looks all right. Follow the finger. Maybe it's a little quicker, being the fact that they are. And I'm not saying this. I'm saying this from league wide. Do you think the testing is a little bit quicker in soccer because of that aspect being down a man?
I don't know if the testing is. I know that the want to get it over with is right. I mean, but it's the same thing in the NFL. Like when they take a guy out for getting his bell rung, you'll see him back in the game 2 or 3 plays later. Sometimes you're like, wow. I think the most difficult part of soccer in terms of judging concussions is that head hits are illegal in the NFL, right? Whereas using your head is a routine part of the game. So you can have several cases of getting your bell rung in soccer to where there's not any obvious like, oh, he blocked a cross with his head. Like how many times does that happen in a game where a guy blocks a cross point blank or blocks a shot point blank and you just walk away and that's the way it is.
And there's a
it's
big
a lot
difference.
harder to head.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Klaus's header, right, and what Yarrow took.
Well, yeah,
so,
and there's not. I mean, just take out Yarrow. I mean, just think of somebody being in a wall and heading a shot away. It happens all the time.
very vulnerable position, being in a wall.
Yeah.
Well, how far away are you during
10
one of
yards.
those? 10 yards away. And the guy, theoretically, if he's kicking it on frame, is probably kicking it. Do you have like a mile per hour, a typical shot from one of these guys?
I don't know.
It was moving, and then the other thing too is since it was a cross, he leaned into like get some distance on the cross as well. So you get two forces coming together. Yeah. And just real quick, I also want to get this out there. He made the decision to come on. I want to say how much whether it was the right decision or not, how much of a warrior Yarrow is for even trying whether it was the best decision or not. To ever say that allowing a medical substitution for a head injury is being is kitten play, we'll say, as like our one
kitten hands, flip-flop kitten hands.
Yeah. Columbus had a great showing as far as away fans and everything like that. And I was
oh yes, the Columbus guy next to you.
Let's get into it.
Yeah,
let's get into it.
Columbus fan. I love banter. Guys love banter, but keep it. You guys suck. We suck. Keep it. But when you're saying a guy is being a kitten, and what's this substitution being allowed for? It's not even a break and play, and I think that's stupid. Be a man. Like the dude, got knocked out in front of you. Like he probably shouldn't have been back on the field. But it was all game this type of it was just a little beyond just City sucks. It was a little bit more personal driven towards each player. And
let's get into this.
Here, you guys. Luckily for him, he was such a big fan that he left at the 60th minute. So the last year wasn't finished at the time because it was getting to the point of just I know you're saying this loud enough. I was even friendly. I'm usually friendly with the people early game, first game, haven't seen you here. Try to start up a little conversation. Pretty closed off. No. Okay, cool.
And this was a relatively small gentleman as well, Eric. Correct?
Yes, he comfortably fit in his seat without spilling over into mine at all, and he didn't.
Can we talk about how this gentleman ended up in the south end next to you? Because I'd like to know who allowed this to happen.
Yeah, I think David, or no, excuse me, sorry, somebody should start doing the way Kansas City does, and if you see credit card charge from a different state or anything like that, you can block said purchase.
Yeah.
Email SeatGeek.
As
Email
far as-
SeatGeek.
Can
Let
you
them know.
do that on
Let them have it.
SeatGeek? Can you flag state
them have
credit
it.
cards on SeatGeek for your resale?
The
I think, and the other thing too that I want to say, like, if you're going to talk that way and be that type of person, like, you don't then have the balls to cheer when your team scores. You're quiet all of a sudden, like no reaction, nothing. Like,
That's odd.
oh, now you don't want people to know you're a Columbus fan, but you're talking pretty, like, you better, if you're going to say that type of stuff, like, show it loud and proud and be like proud to be, that fan. Like, but
I think
then to
soccer
all of a sudden
fans-
cower and all this type of stuff afterwards is like, dude, come on.
yeah,
man.
I think soccer fans have. I'm gonna get killed for saying this.
Here we go. Here we go.
But I think
Let's get into it. Let's do it.
I think soccer fans have this inherently hard, or at least try to maintain a very hard image compared to other sports. I remember when Celio went down. Was that in Dallas? I think it was in Dallas.
Yeah, when he got hurt, yes. It was
Yeah.
in Dallas.
They booed him, right? They booed him. His leg was in half. Like, it was completely sawed off below the shin. And they're booing him, And so I don't think you see that in other sports. When there's a really bad injury in the NFL, you can, like, hear a pin drop. Like, it gets quiet. When a really gruesome injury happens, it's quiet in there. It doesn't matter who the player is. It's typically pretty quiet. Like, this happens to Yarrow. The drums are still playing on the other end. They're still chanting. And you've got, Hardo Columbus guy over here who's talking, whatever kitten talk about Yarrow in the second row of 149. It just, I don't know. Something about it. I think that people just need to chill out overall.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not a soccer fan thing. There's plenty of horrendous, full of contact American sports fans in the city of Philadelphia that actually cheered
say,
when
you could
Michael
just-
when Michael Irvin. If you remember when Michael Irvin back in the day hurt his neck,
Yeah.
at the old Veterans Stadium, the Philly fans cheered when he got.
They
hurt.
are the worst. Philly fans are the worst.
And they're the worst, but it's definitely not limited to them. There was an incident between the Blues and Blackhawks in the mid 2000 teens where David Backus got cheap shotted and knocked out, and the Blackhawks fans cheered. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen in soccer, but it is not exclusive to soccer. And I think, I don't know, in the case of the city, since it happened in the South End, that maybe the band did not realize what was going on, the chanting didn't realize what was going on. That could have been part of it. I don't know. I wasn't there. But to the larger point that you were trying to make, yeah, like, don't be so tough and cool, Columbus Crew guy. Did you tell him we have a podcast? Did you invite him on, Eric?
I offered him a sticker. He politely declined.
Decline.
Well,
Is that the first
yeah.
time there's been a decline on that, Eric? That's a pretty nice
Well, I was
offer.
about to put it just when he wasn't just give him a pat on the back, like, nice game, and stick it on the middle of his back, because we know he's not reaching there.
I saw him.
anyway,
I wouldn't want to
so
touch that
I
guy.
would,
I wouldn't want
he-
to touch
he
that
looked a
guy.
little-
You saw him, Dave?
I saw the picture of him.
I sent
Oh,
the
was that?
picture
I
to
saw the
you.
picture you sent. I had no idea what I was
Yeah,
looking
he
at.
had an
That was him.
awesome sunglass
Sunglass
tan
line.
line. Totally not,
Pull it up here.
totally not dad like. Totally not douchey.
Well, that was the other thing too that was like frustrating to me, is he was there with, I'm assuming, his son. Like, his son was
Yeah.
a teenager or something like that, but like, I don't know, man. Like,
Oh yeah, it's a
You have to have a
I'm
license to
all
drive a
for-
car, but not to have kids. I mean, that's
I,
kind of.
I,
yeah.
I think whenever, like, a player goes down, there's something about like a little like initial within 5 seconds, come on, get up. But then eventually you kind of realize, like, oh no, it like something's there.
Yeah,
And like in
this was
case,
not
like,
a guy that
when
was-
you
that
saw
was
the
flopping.
breathing and everything like that, it was like,
Yeah.
oh no, like something's.
Yeah.
And then like to complain because they're allowing a medical substitution for that, like without
I'd
a stoppage.
imagine he
Like,
looked like
what are
he
you
may have been at the Cardinal game earlier that day, judging by the awesome sunglass tan, and he may have imbibed in quite a few Budweisers, and that's all fine and good. But let's carry ourselves with a little bit more class.
I'm going to
'Cause I
say
don't
this
think
guy
that's-
might have been floating on the Merrimack earlier that day. I'm
Yeah,
not
he could have been
entirely
on a float
sure.
trip. I don't think Columbus fans, by and large, are
No,
decent
I'll
people.
give this
Yeah,
the Columbus fans all throughout the stadium. They were loud. They were great. I saw a couple people on the socials thanking City for being so
that's
welcoming to
great.
them coming to. I thought that was great. And like I
So
sent you
yeah,
guys the picture of them walking through their little group walking through the plaza there pregame, but they were respectful. They weren't like talking trash or
Dorks.
doing anything. They were just being proud. Like I mean,
yeah.
I'm 100. I've told you that many times on the show. Like I love
So
when that
this,
away
yeah.
fans are loud and everything, but like just don't go like
So this was just one jabroni in a sea of otherwise good people.
yes. One
Wasn't even
jabroni in the
wearing
sea.
Columbus gear. That's why I didn't really
Oh, that's
understand
why I'm saying. Like man,
when you
like
sent the
if you're
picture. I
gonna
didn't know
if
who
you're
I
gonna
was
talk
looking at.
if you're gonna talk that way, like stand by your team at least. Let people know that you're
Yeah.
this kind of guy. But
Send a
whatever.
picture to security. Don't let them back in.
Well,
Yeah.
regardless, St. Louis drops another 2-1 to Columbus. They fall to 12th place. Now with 2 wins, 2 draws, and 4 losses for a grand total of 8 points, whereas Columbus sits in first place in the East with 5 wins, 3 draws, and 0 losses with 12 points now. So the big difference there for the two squads, and it is what it is at this point. But things don't get any easier. We'll just say that with Vancouver coming to town on Saturday, what they have like 19 points or something like that, sitting in
Best team
first
in the league right
first
now,
place
yeah.
in the West. Yeah, supporter shield leaders, and we will cover that on Thursday's episode as part of the STL Kalachi match week preview. But before we get there, final thoughts as we put a bow on this segment.
Real quick, one more gripe.
Oh boy,
Apple, you're one of the richest companies in the world.
Oh,
How
here we
do
go.
you have
Here we
three
go.
camera angles all throughout stadiums? I mean, this is not just a one-time deal. This has been a recurring thing, not just affecting City but other players. How is there not a better camera angle? I mean, as annoying as it is, how are there not lines being drawn to figure out? Because, I mean, I'm gonna guess you guys are feeling the same way. That to me, that goal looked onside, and the fact
This
that
is
they're not even going to review it and there's not other camera angles that they can look at is just insane to me. When I mean, at what point do we look at this Apple deal as just such a negative on the league? Like,
We've been looking at it for 3 years now, Eric. As a
at
negative
what
on the
point,
league.
like man,
this
it's
this is not on Apple. This is on the MLS for being an absolute farce of a league, and not demanding more. How are you the most popular league in one of the most populous soccer countries in the world and not have the technology to draw lines and to have the semi-automated offsides like the rest of the major soccer world does? It's unacceptable. Like so many things are, it's completely unacceptable that you try to pass this off as this top product and all of your time and energy is spent on messy marketing and not, hey, let's increase the integrity of the competition. Not saying that this particular goal is like super important in the hierarchy of things that are important for the MLS to change, but it's symptomatic, right? Like they should be able to go to a VAR official should be able to draw the lines on the field or use the semi-automated offside system like they did. They've used it in the last couple weeks in Premier League. It's been fantastic. They don't even have to draw the lines. It's better, and the MLS is still lagging behind. Unacceptable. It delegitimizes any good things that the league is doing to me because the competitive integrity is compromised because you can't get calls right. Calls that need to be made. Like what happens if this comes? What happens if this happens in the playoffs, MLS Cup, and you can't draw lines?
and the other thing too is like this happened last year. This happened a couple of times last year.
Yeah.
Once was for us, and man, I'm really drawing a blank on what game it was, but the ball goes across the line, and it looked like it got over the line, and it was cleared out. Like it was one of those situations. But they didn't have a camera angle for the goal
Yeah.
line, and we're sitting there going, "How do you not have a camera angle for the goal
Do you
line?"
think,
Like,
David?
what?
This might be more of a question for you because I have this sneaking feeling that this is a part of like the retaining the Americanization in this sport. American sports fans have this weird obsession with the human element when it comes to referees. It's the same reason that I don't think we'll ever get any sort of like automated automated strike zone, although it is being tested out.
I think it's going to happen.
But do you think that is there a potential that this is part of, we have to retain the human element in this sport?
No, I think, and I don't know Don Garber and the people, the powers that be at the MLS personally, but I think there's a lot of room for complaining when it comes to that particular commissioner. I don't think that, I can't speak for most American sports fans. This American sports fan likes the idea of automating as much as possible, take the human element out of it as much as we can, and just get the call right. That's the important thing. So for me, like, give me all the technology. It exists out there. You can use line technology for not only the offsides call, but also for goal calls as well. And you could just get everything perfect. There's no need to take any guesswork. Like, I think about a line, what do they call them? Line judges, linesmen, the referee. I don't see. This is how my soccer knowledge is. People are like, "What is this guy doing? Hosted a podcast about soccer? Doesn't know what he's talking about." To think that they've got to run up and down the field with their eyes bouncing up and down to get in position to see this play that oftentimes is like a shoe or a toe worth of offsides. It's such a hard call to make. And if you don't have a camera angle, this one that they showed on Klaus's play was clearly, not at the right angle. You don't have one looking literally right at that moment. There's no way you can get it right. There's no way. It's impossible. And, I agree or disagree with the call. There wasn't definitive proof whenever from the angle that you had. There's no way you could make that call. There's no way you could reverse it. If it was called one way, you're not going to win the other way. That's just the way it goes. So, for me, get the call right. Put in whatever you can to help out. I think that soccer is severely under-reffed. I've been saying that for a long time. I think it's crazy. There's one guy that's running out there on the field with the two on the lines. In other sports with smaller fields, they have more referees out there. So give them more help, give them more support, and with the technology clearly existing and being successful in other leagues globally, it should be something that's rolled out here if the league is to be taken seriously, like other major professional sports leagues that exist.
Yeah.
So that's that. Again, 2-1, frustrating loss. I think, again, good things to think about and potentially look forward to, but the schedule gets harder before it gets easier. There's no doubt about that with a red-hot Vancouver team coming to town again. We'll get into that on Thursday during the STL Kalachi Match Week preview. Before we get there, Eric, you seem very stressed. You seem like you need to decompress a little bit. I know you like to do that in the gym, and the place to get it done is Ready to Live Wellness.
Yeah, I've been going to Ready to Live Wellness pretty consistently here lately, and it's been really helping me not only physically but mentally. They're keeping me on track with all my goals, and I'm doing it in a safe environment. But one thing that's really underappreciated with what Ready to Live Wellness offers is the community that they have there. You'll find all different levels, whether it's young, old, new, experienced. They've got it all, so you feel comfortable in the setting no matter what style of working out you're wanting to do. And then to make sure you're doing it safely and moving properly and just feeling your best, you go right upstairs and they have body movement specialists, yoga, PT, everything that you need. It's all under one roof, and it'll get you feeling the best you physically and mentally can. It's at Ready to Live Wellness.
That's Ready to Live Wellness at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard. If you are looking to get swole like Eric Cole, you got to check out Ready to Live Wellness. Dave, I got a story to tell you about Friday night. We had our first men's slow pitch softball game here in Mascoutah, and we lost in extra innings. It was really close. We were more competitive than we expected. I went 1 for 4, by the way. I can't hit. I don't know what happened. I can't get the ball in the air. I kept grounding out. I grounded into a double play, Dave. A double play in slow pitch softball. It's terrible.
It's only 60
They
foot
got me
bases.
playing second. 60 feet. Well, yeah, I wasn't running real hard out of the box. I did turn it on after a while. It's scary when you've got a shortstop throwing the ball to first when you're running down the line and you don't have a helmet on. So I started to cover up my face as I ran through there. But unfortunately, maybe fortunately, I don't know, the first baseman caught it and I was doubled up. But again, it was a fun, enjoyable experience. One of the things that we were curious about going into this, I mentioned Warrior Logo Wear is doing the uniforms for this team. The team itself, we show up wearing hoodies. It's kind of cold outside. Everybody's kind of wearing their own thing. We don't look really uniformed at this time. We didn't know if Warrior logo wear was going to get the uniforms done in time, because it's also Corey League season at the park in Mascoutah. So everybody's getting their Corey League uniforms going too, which, by the way, Warrior logo wear takes care of. We show up, guess what's laid across the picnic tables out there at the field?
How about
Brand
that?
new jerseys, compliments of Warrior logo wear. You cannot ask for better service to not only get this done on time the way they did it, but to have it delivered personally right there to the game right before we went out took the field. We looked super sharp. The other team didn't have uniforms, Dave. We had
man.
uniforms, and we had them all thanks to Warrior logo wear.
I cannot imagine how drippy you looked. Like your Riz
Nice.
must have just been
They were
through
nice.
the roof.
They were
My
nice.
kids are gonna hate me for
Yeah.
both of those terms. But yeah, I mean that's what you come to expect with Warrior logo wear, right? Top folks, veteran-owned business. They get the job done on time, man. There are no excuses. They get your uniform needs, your swag needs handled on time according to your order. There's nothing else to be said. Just a bunch of great people. 12th East Main Street, Mascoutah, Illinois. Check them out. Warrior Logo Wear on Twitter, at Warrior Logo Wear on Instagram, warriorlogowear.com. They'll help you set up the online stores. If you have a Corey League team or a youth team that wants to set up an online store for some swag, they can help you out with that too. They can design the logo if you don't have a logo yet. Best thing about it, and I know DH loves this, no hidden fees.
None.
They're not
I
gonna
hate-
hit you with
I
any hidden
hate
fees.
hidden fees, Dave.
Hate 'em.
Hate them.
Absolutely
You go to
hate 'em.
Ticketmaster or SeatGeek to buy tickets. What are you going to get hit with on the back end? Hidden fees
fees.
every single time.
Not at Warrior Logo Wear,
not there.
Jack. Yeah,
Amazing.
12 East Main Street, Mascoutah, Illinois, the official swag sponsor and the studio sponsor of the South End supporters and the uniform provider for DH's men's league softball team.
Yeah, very
about that?
exciting. And we'll be playing again Friday night. So every Friday night now, that's my new Friday nights is an hour spent at the park.
That's exciting.
Trying not to tear something and embarrass myself. We move-
Please take it easy. Please make sure you warm up a little bit. You stretch.
Yeah, it's important.
I'm not wanting to put this out in the universe, but I'm a little worried about your health. I'm a little
appreciate-
worried about your health.
I appreciate it. I've been injured before. We'll just say that. One thing, one place again you could do some training at would be the sponsor of our Elite News and Notes, bringing you every week Elite FT at 101 The Game Drive in Glen Carbon, Illinois. It's inside the Sports Academy, Dave, and it is time now for the Elite News and Notes from the Back Post.
That's right, the Elite News and Notes, and we will start with the announcement on the 11th, April 11th this week. It was announced that the CONCACAF Gold Cup semifinal will be held on Wednesday, July 2nd at Energizer Park. That is super exciting. Gold Cup. The draw came out last week. I think the U.S. is with like Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, and some
They'll
other.
still struggle to get out of the group.
Yeah.
It seems like every time you look at like those countries, you're thinking it's
Yeah.
going to be a wash, and they'll struggle.
This is really cool. Having an international semifinal at Energizer Park at City Park, excuse me.
Thank you.
Is really cool. I did see though that most likely the U.S. and Mexico, if they were to meet, U.S. and Mexico being the two most popular teams in CONCACAF, this whole tournament is geared to get the U.S. and Mexico to play against each other in California in the semifinal. So it's most likely that the teams will not meet up in St. Louis, although that would be really cool. So July 2nd, that'll be a hot one. That'll be a hot one that day. But I'd imagine that if you do get the right teams, the supporters, the international supporters will show out for that semifinal. So very cool. In St. Louis City SC News, as everybody knows, Makai Joyner made his season debut with the first team this week because he and Brendan McSorley got signed to short-term agreements. So, Eric, is it 2 or 4 games this time?
So I believe there's like a weird something to the effect of like if they're a draft pick, I believe. Don't quote me on this. I believe you get 4, and then if it's like an academy player, you get 2.
So
or
McSorley
something to that effect.
McSorley and Joyner are both homegrowns. So I believe they only get 2 on this particular. They get to dress 2. They don't even have to play. I think
and it's still like it would have been like more useful come Open Cup, but like it was like a deal where remember last year it was like within 4 days or
yeah.
something like that you could you could register your one call up registered for like
Yeah.
it covered like 5 games or days
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. So, speaking of City 2, they dropped their second straight, and I'm not sure what's going on with them. Hit a little bump in the road here, but they lost 3-1 to Ventura County. Ryan Betcher was the only goal scorer for them. They dropped a 3-1 decision in MLS Next Pro. So, it was another tough weekend for the City family, but they were also missing two of their best goal scorers, so maybe that had something to do with it too.
Yeah.
Not to end on a down note, but let's talk about the kids. Eric, did you see this today? I don't know if you saw this thing. This popped up in my newsfeed in the last couple hours. So, the St. Louis City Academy was playing, their U16 team was playing against Bayern Munich's U16
I did see
team in this really cool Adidas. It's like an Adidas shootout, I think is what they call it. And they beat Bayern's U16 Academy team. And that is just so, they beat them in PKs 7-6.
Wasn't it last year they beat Arsenal's academy?
Was it last year? Did they do
I
that?
think it was last year that they took down Arsenal's academy or something like that.
It's
too.
just
Like,
so
yeah.
cool,
So
man.
cool,
Like,
man. Like,
now let's give it a little bit of context that, the U16s, the 15 and 16-year-olds that are the best for Arsenal's academy are playing like U18, U19.
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
how that works with those big clubs. Same thing with Bayern, but it's still a huge accomplishment. I mean, kids that are playing academy club in St. Louis, Missouri, are knocking off a Bayern U16 academy team. Like that's just it's enormous. That's so cool. I think they were actually up 2-0, and then Bayern came back, and then they beat them 7-6 in PKs. So very, very cool. Love to see there's just momentum building from the grassroots with this academy, and you see it. It's really cool to see it here, and then kind of the progression to talk about the academy next would be talk about Mackay playing for the first team and having some good minutes, and it's just very cool. And I think I said last week, like this in particular, building the youth, building the academy is how this team is going to be sustainable long term, because I don't think they're ever going to be a market for big signees. It's just not, it's not going to fit their revenue model. But if they can build some sustainable, repeatable, like academy development just patterns, and they could do that over a long period of time, you're talking about an amazing amount of talent that could come through this team. So
I mean,
that's really cool.
That's what Lutz was kind of hinting at, that's what he wants to bring here is like through the academy.
Yeah, that's really cool. So unless Eric has something else, that's all I have today for your Elite news and notes from the back post, brought to you by Elite FT at 101 The Game Drive. Right now through the end of April, 10% off all kids camps and all trainings through the end of April. But I've got an extra little nugget for you, DH. Check this out.
Do tell.
I got an extra. I talked to Justin McMillan. I've got a special Wyckoff code that can get you an extra 10% off.
Really?
Through the end of April. So 20% off if you use the code Wyckoff10 when you register. So you go to eliteft.com, you check out their website, pick camps, pick a training. 20% off if you use the code Wyckoff10.
It's WYKOFF. Important.
Yes,
to spell
lowercase
that
10.
correctly.
Yes. In particular, there's one July 21st through 24th at Plummer Park in Edwardsville. It is a finishing and goalkeeper camp. So check that one out. If that's the one. I have to go back and correct what I said. That's the one that if you use the code Wyckoff10, you get the 20% off. You get 10% off everything through April. But if you go and sign up for the one July 21st through 24th at Plummer Park, keeper and finishing camp, I believe it's K through 8th grade. Use the code Wyckoff10, lowercase WYKOFF10. You get 20% off through the end of April.
That's great.
So
It's a great
that's
deal.
a great sponsor, a great partner, and I'm telling you, it's a great. Even if you have kids that are just trying to feel out whether or not they really want to be soccer players, they've got such an awesome group of coaches, headlined by Mr. Dave Cole, brother of Eric. They make it so much fun. So yeah, great thing to do for the kids during the summer.
Yeah, take advantage of that. I got two quick stories that I'll get through real quick, and then we'll get out of here. One is that sources are saying that City FC are in advanced talk to sign Fredrik Jensen from Augsburg. This one doesn't really make sense to me. He's an attacking mid, but it sounds like he's not really getting a lot of appearances, injury prone, only 5 goals and 7 assists in 7 seasons. So I'm really confused on this one. So
Doesn't attack much.
Yeah, you kind of want that in an attacking mid, but yeah, we'll just leave that hopefully just to rumor. But they're looking to make it happen in this upcoming, I believe, window that is coming. And then the last one, I feel like this one just needs to be touched on. I don't know if we've really touched on it yet, but City SC has started kind of this seeing impaired deal where in the Seattle game, 10 seeing impaired supporters were holding what looked like mini like air hockey tables, they said. But what it is like there's a magnet on the board that they're holding that kind of shows where the ball is, and then little vibrations that show where players kind of move. It just is. Go to MLSsoccer.com and look up this story because it's such a cool thing that they're implementing throughout City Park. I hope this catches on throughout the league because, as Dave has said for so long now, soccer is for everybody, and that doesn't mean that visually impaired or any impairment should keep you from enjoying the beautiful game. So I love that City has started this little thing going forward.
I saw that in the Seattle game. We hadn't talked about it yet, I guess, at this point. It seems like something we would have talked about a couple of weeks back, but I did think it was super cool. I didn't understand how it worked. I knew there had to be some sort of, vibration. I think it would be super cool to interact with one just to feel it. But, yeah, exactly. Good way to describe it. Kind of looked like a little mini air hockey table that sat on their lap and, able to listen to the audio from the game in headphones and then be able to play with that to get a feel for where the ball's at on the pitch. Super, super cool. And I'm assuming that is a City and MLS thing. I don't know if it's just a City thing or not, but would be great to see that everywhere.
I think they're trying to maybe City's the test, test with it, and then hopefully it takes off throughout.
All right, so the MLS isn't all bad. They're doing some good things there, Dave. You see that? Eric, where can people follow us on socials?
Check out all our socials on Instagram. We're South End Supporters. Our Twitter and our Reddit is _podcast STL. Make sure you're following us on our Facebook page, as well as check out our YouTube, like and subscribe to keep up with all things South End Supporters.
I want to say thank you, as always, to all the sponsors on this program. The list is growing, Eric. The list is growing from where we started, the humble beginnings, where we started with just our moms tuning in. The list continues to expand ever so much. Big thanks of always to our title sponsor, Ready to Live Wellness at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard. Again, if you were looking to get swole like Eric Cole, getting into the summer season, you've got to check out Ready to Live Wellness, brother. And then Warrior Logo Wear, not only the sponsor of the uniforms, not only the sponsor of the uniforms, they created the uniforms for my slow pitch softball team, but they are the official swag sponsor of SES and the studio sponsor. My goodness, yeah, studio sponsor here. Warrior Logo Wear at 12 East Main Street. There are too many sponsors. There's so many sponsors. I'm losing track of this whole thing. 12 East Main Street in Muscuda. STL Kalachi, 1530 South Kirkwood Road in Sunset Hills. They will bring you the STL Kalachi Match Week preview coming up on Thursday, where we'll get into that Vancouver game. And then Felix's Pizza Pub, 6401 Clayton Avenue in Dogtown. We'll have the South End Submissions coming up on that same Thursday episode. I'm looking forward to getting into Reddit, boys, on Thursday. I like those Reddit submissions. I can't wait for that. And we mentioned our most recent sponsor, Elite FT, at 101 The Game Drive in Glen Carbon, Illinois, inside of the Sports Academy. They bring you the news and notes from the back post every Tuesday here on South End Supporters. For Eric Cole, for the Monday Morning Center back, Dave Wyckoff. My name is David Heck. You've been listening to South End Supporters. We'll see you next week. And until then, let's go City.